All right, so I think we're gonna get started here. All right, well, welcome everybody to the first Kick Wax clinic we've done here at Forgotten Star. Yeah, I was halfway expecting a few more people like I mentioned before. But lucky for you guys, you're going to be a little bit closer. If you want to stand up and get close as I'm doing stuff, feel free. You're not really going to be in anybody's way because there's not too many of you blocking those view. But if you guys do that, just make sure that the camera can still see the ski at all times because this will get uploaded online. People will want to be able to see this. Yeah, so welcome once again to the Kick Wax Clinic. So what I'm going to be going over tonight is try to do a brief introduction to most facets of kick waxing waxable classic skis. So we've done the glide waxing before in several other clinics, so you can find that information on our website or on our YouTube channel from times that we've been here. But tonight I'll go over hard waxing, both easy hard waxes that are easy to use like blues and greens, and then the more tricky stuff, the stickier waxes that kind of suck to work with. Then also dive into Klister as well, and that's going to be the big one that I think a lot of people are interested in because this winter has sucked. We've been using Klister quite often, and at least for the next 2 weeks, it looks like it's probably going to be more Klister again. With this, I'll show the different ways that you can use Klister, the theories behind how Klister should be applied, and when you should use certain techniques over others. So there'll be a lot of different things that we're going to go over, and unlike waxable classic skiing, this is probably going to be a little bit more technical. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer. At the very end, once I'm done with the video and everything, I'm going to stop it, go grab another beer, and I'll be here for the rest of the night. As long as you guys want to ask questions, I will be here to answer anything to your heart's desire, whether it's specific product or specific application methods, and I can give you a more detailed demonstration on that. So what we're going to be going over with this clinic is not necessarily super specific about this product for this condition, while there will be some of that. I'll be more talking about the types of products and how they are applied and in a broad scope. Let's get started. We're going to start off with the easiest things first. I'm just going to grab a set of skis. So I got all my test skis here set and prepped. Max was kind enough to clean the skis for me from our last weekend of racing. So with a pair of skis, I'm going to go over how I would prep this in terms of a race. That's one thing I do here is race service at Pioneer Midwest. So I will show you how I will apply it as a race wax. Some of these steps you can skip if you would like to for training because it's not going to make or break your training if the wax is slightly into your glide zone or slightly away from the glide zone. What I will do for racing purposes, because I want to make this as clean as possible, as good as possible, I'm going to get the zones taped to where I want these marked at. And so for this specific ski that I'm going to be working with, this is going to be a hard wax ski. So what I'm going to do here is in the back for my ski that I know for a hard wax, a blue, easy to kick hard wax, blues and greens, I'm going to do 0.2 to 0.2. So with this, I don't have the numbers on the skis, so it might be H to H on some of your people's skis. It might be 0.2 to 0.2 on your skis. On my skis, I just have 3 lines. I know what the markings mean myself. So I'm going to do the 0.2 to 0.2. Get that tape on there, and that's going to bracket and kind of show me exactly where I need to have it, the wax going to. And the very first thing I'm going to do, if it's a brand new pair of skis, I'm going to sand the zone. And if it's a ski that I have not used or have not sanded in 3, 4, 5 times, I'm probably going to just lightly touch up with sandpaper. So sandpaper that I'm using is 100 grit sandpaper. The reason why I'm using sandpaper is it's going to increase the surface area that the kick wax has to attach to the ski base. And that's a big important piece there. If you are trying to attach the kick wax to a very smooth part of the base, that's going to be up in the gliding areas, it's just going to come right off. Sanding that zone is going to help keep the wax on there for a longer duration. That's what we're really worried about. In most cases, unless we're doing sprint races, durability does come into play, and it doesn't matter the type of snow conditions, whether it is not very abrasive conditions, like we just got some nice new snow, it's normal blue temperatures, it's pretty soft, not very abrasive. You still want to be able to have that wax stay put on the ski by sanding it and using a binder. So with the sandpaper, I'm just going to do a light few passes on here, just back and forth. I'm not worried about cross hatching or anything like that. Basically, all I'm doing is increasing the surface area on the kick zone here. Cross hatching or doing these special patterns is not going to be any more beneficial to creating more surface area on the ski. It creates the exact same amount of surface area regardless if it's this way or this way. But if some of this stuff peeks through or pokes through the kick zone, it might be a little bit faster to have it going in line with the ski. But really, the main thing is it's just easier to do it this way. So there's not really a benefit to doing cross hatching, in my opinion. You might find somebody else is going to say otherwise, and that's fine. Really do what you think is best. But for my recommendation, it is just straight up and down. So just a light, easy layer there. And the one thing I did not prep is my iron. Just going to plug this in really quickly. So reason why I have an iron here is for the binder. And so this is an often overlooked step in kick waxing. This is going to be what is going to make your ski last longer than 5 or 10 kilometers. If you want to go out for more than half hour, 45 minutes, you're going to want to put down a binder of some sort. I've got tons of different binders that we have to look at, and I will be applying each and every one of these tonight. So there's different types of binders here. And this is where we're going to go into not necessarily specific about products, but just the type of waxes. So there's, I have 4 different binders here. One of them is going to be a traditional hard wax binder. So this is Rex Base Wax. What you know about a hard wax binder, not going to be very sticky. So this wax here, if I do this correctly, I could probably actually pull this out of the tin. Rex has some of these waxes that, yeah, there we go. And there. So this comes right out of the tin. It's not a very sticky wax. There's some tackiness to it, but this is going to be a really fast binder. So waxes like this are going to be used in non-abrasive conditions or during events that you don't necessarily need the wax to stick on there for 50K. So for longer races, probably don't recommend this, but for shorter races or races where there's not a lot of abrasiveness, this is an easy one to use. There's other brands have waxes that are similar to this where it's just easy to apply. This feels more like a blue and a green hard wax. Then you're going to get into hybrid binders that you'll get from that have a little bit of Klister in there in addition to some of that hard wax. And these are going to be a little bit stickier. These are going to be more durable. These are going to be more kind of the go-to binders for a lot of the conditions that we have here when we're on man-made snow. The issue with these is that they're slightly more difficult to apply because they're sticky, and I'll show you a few things there. And then we got Klister binders. So I got 2 different types of Klister binders here. I have a liquid Klister, which goes on very thinly, and then I have a true Klister, which goes on in as thick of a layer as you want. So you can put this on thin if you do it correctly, or you can put it on thicker if you want. If you have a true traditional Klister ski that has a higher pocket, you're going to need to put more wax underneath there. It's much easier to get more of this on there than it is more of this. So I'll be going over that. Again, these products, there's going to be several different types from other companies. They're going to kind of fit in those, but it's really easy to see. If you get a binder that's not very sticky, it's probably a hard wax binder. If you get a binder that's hard to take the cover off, it's probably a Klister mix of some sort. And then again, going into the traditional Klister binders, regardless if it's a liquid, a spray, or a one that you would just go on. So for this one, because we're just starting off nice and easy, I'm going to show you the hard wax binder. Because this is a really easy binder to work with, I'm just going to crayon this on. Just crayon on a layer here, and I'll show you just one layer there, kind of solidly through, and then I will take my kick iron, which I have set currently to 120-ish degrees. But with this, I'm going to heat up this wax, and this heating process is going to help make this wax a bit more durable and really stick to that base. And so really what we're doing is that we're trying to get a glue that will go between the kick wax, the kicking product that you're using, and then the base of the ski. This is the glue that keeps everything in place. So once I have this heated, I'm just going to take a kick cork, a synthetic cork, and just smooth this out. This is now a nice thin, fast layer binder that's on there. So I'm going to set the ski off the side. I'm going to, hey Max, can you come up here, and I'm going to just have you shuttle skis for me. You just set that outside. So I'm going to go on to the next ski right away. I'm basically going pairs on here. So this first pair that I'm doing, first one is going to be an easy hard wax. The second one is going to be those stickier hard waxes, the stuff that we've been dealing with this season, more for these man-made snow conditions. So when we're in man-made snow, we're going to be wanting using one of these hybrid waxes. So this is going to be that Start Base Wax Extra. Other waxes like this can be like a Vouti Super Base. That's another very popular one out there. But with this, because this is going to be a thicker binder and a thicker kick wax, I'm going to wax the ski slightly differently than those zones. So again, this is something that you're going to learn the more that you wax your skis, where those zones should be at. For me on these skis, it's not going to be 0.2 to 0.2. It'll be 0.4 in the back to 0.4 in the front, or 0.2 in the front, is what I will traditionally use for these stickier hard waxes. So with this, same prep as before. I'm not going to sand this zone, but that could be something you could do. And one trick that you can use to doing this, so I'm going to bring this down. Just take my putty knife, this. So one trick to applying this, so if I were to do this, and I'm going to just try and do it right now, putting it on the way that it was going before, doesn't do anything at all. And if I really were to work at it and really try to get it on, I get this icky, gooey, sticky mess. It just doesn't go on well. So there's two ways that you can go about this. Both require heat. The more traditional way, it's going to tap the wax to the iron. Show you here. Tap the wax to the iron, and then you can kind of do some light dabs on the ski. I'll show you this. About the way that I like to do it is kind of in reverse a little bit, but it's to take the iron and warm up the ski base. So if you get a nice warm ski base, again, we don't have to really worry about burning the base on here because we're not having this glide. So if it burns the base, who cares? We're covering it with kick wax. But with that, I'm now able to get a nice thin layer of this wax on there because the ski base is warm and it is allowing me to get this on there, and it's still not pretty. Still a little gunky. But I have something on there. And now that I have something on there, I can take that iron, warm it up. And then use that cork to smooth it out, spread it out. And then what I will do is that sometimes I'll get stuff that kind of bleeds over into the groove. You can kind of see how my groove is a little clogged up there. I'm just going to take the corner of the cork, push that down, and one more pass, and I am now set with a nice thin layer of binder. So, send this outside. No, take that other one back from you. So that is putting on the binder for different types of hard waxes, and now I'll go over the process of actually applying the hard wax. So applying the hard wax, the reason why I set this outside, let it cool off, get to room temperature or colder. Having a colder ski base, not a frozen ski base, but just a cooler ski base, makes it easier to apply kick wax. Oh, look at that. Right back to me. Applying kick wax, standard, blues and greens, super easy. You're just putting on nice thin layers. So with this, when I'm working with blues and greens, generally I'm looking at 4 to 5 layers, 4 to 5 thin layers. So I'll be just cramming this on, just like I was before. So there's one layer, just kind of getting full coverage there as best as I can. Then taking the cork, and the nice thing is with this tape is I'm actually running the cork over the tape, getting to a spot where normally this would be in your glide zone. I don't really want to have the cork in the glide zone, but it allows me to, and you can hear that little piece there, that gives me an idea of when to actually stop. And this is now going to be one very thin layer of wax on there. Again, when I'm working with blues and greens, this is what we actually raced on this weekend up in Itasca. We were on Rex Blue. That's why my thing is so short. It's really easy to apply very, very quickly. The nice thing is with a lot of these standard synthetic kick waxes, you're going to have what is known as a bump system where, so this is blue, this stops working, well, there's a bump to it. And what a bump means, it's a bump up and kick. So if you need just a little bit more kick, you can just bump that up to the next one in line. So I'll show you here, this is the blue, I've got my third layer on there. And if I get an athlete that comes back and says, hey, I need a little bit more kick, well, I will bump them up to the next level of wax. So from Rex, blue special, light blue, it's just the next one up in line. Most companies have waxes in these bumping systems. So you'll look at from the synthetic lines, so that's just gonna be the standard waxes that you'll see. There's the color ranges. If blue doesn't work, go to the light blue. If light blue doesn't work, go to the violet. If violet doesn't work, go to the red. And you just keep on warming up, going through that process. Assuming that it is normal, natural snow. Once you start to get into trickier snow types like the man-made snow, a lot of ice, freeze thaw, or if it's super high humidity or super low humidity, certain conditions, that's why I got boxes filled with another two-sided box there and then another box filled with Klister. We got a lot going on there. So with this, now that I got this done, I'm just going to take the tape off, front and back. And the last thing that I like to do with this is just push the little ridge that was made with that tape, just push it in so that I don't have that ridge that's helping us, that's slowing the ski down. But this would be an awesome ski to ski on if it was 20 degrees and normal snow. I hope we have that this year. I hope. Really it's more snow temperature, but it's very difficult to measure that. And generally snow temperature and air temperature are relatively the same. The snow temperature just lags behind the air temperature. So if it was really cold overnight and it's warming up through the day, well, the air temperature might be warmer and the snow temperature might be colder. Or vice versa, if it was warm the day before and it got really cold, the snow temperature can be warmer than the air temperature. And that's one thing you'll have to kind of look at the previous history if you don't have a snow thermometer. It's like, okay, what was it yesterday? What was it the day before? What is the snow conditions like? So, grab this other ski again. All right, and then on to the sticky, icky hard waxes. So, sticky hard waxes. The prime example I'm gonna have here is N41 from Rex. What makes this a sticky hard wax, and you guys will see this if I open this up and it is gross, it's going to be what's called a Klister mix. So there's going to be some Klister in this, but also some hard wax components to it as well, which is why it's still in a tin. Certain companies will have waxes like that. The one notable one that I like to demonstrate, because they say it plainly on the tin. So Star has a new line from last year. It's their M series waxes that we've been actually using quite a bit in racing both last year and this year. But they have 3 waxes here: M16, M21, then M26. These 3 are all using roughly the same raw materials. The big difference between them, M16, this is 16% Klister. So I pull this off and it's fairly soft, but not too bad. M21, I mean, you guys just saw, there's a little bit of those Klister, the sticky strands. And then M26, which is a brand new container. This is just a super, super soft wax. These are what I would consider a bumping system, where if this one is working but it stops working, well, you can go up to the M16 and then go into that M26. So these work as a system together. And so you may not be using just one, or you might be using a combination of 2 or 3 of them. So, but there are other waxes, Start Oslo, that's another popular one that people know or are aware of. It's more difficult to apply. But when you get waxes like this, again, I'll show you ways that you can get around it. So when you have it in a warm setting like this, with a warmish ski, warm kick wax, best thing that you can do is kind of do like this dab and twist method. But with this, still isn't pretty, because let's see how much junk is there. Now I'm going to go and grab something to show you. I'll be back in a second. So when I got here, I threw this outside. I found a pile of ice cubes that I put it in. So I froze this up. People have freezers at their own home, just throw it in the freezer. Now with this, look at the difference there. One of these is going to be really easy for me to cork in, the other one not so much. So still going to be able to cork this in because we're at room temperature. But you can see the difference there between the two. So the other one, I still have some really thick spots back here, thicker spot there. This is nice, smooth, even wax layer. So again, having that frozen, the cold wax, just throw it in your freezer. That is a way to really help make these apply well. Again, trying to get thin layers on here. These thicker waxes or these stickier waxes, they do go on thicker even if you're trying to put them on thin. So with the blue wax, I don't remember where I put it, over there. I did 4 layers of wax. I generally, on these stickier waxes, I just reduce that number by 1. So if I'm doing 5 layers normally, I will do 4 layers with a sticky wax. So with this wax, probably would just do 3 layers and call it good. If I need more, I can add more later on. But knowing that they are thicker to begin with just because of how soft they are, I'm going to reduce that number. So with the 3, and exactly, wax thickness will not help increase durability. What it'll help do is increase your kick. Sometimes you'll get more kick if you add on more wax. And some of these waxes do need thickness in order to work. If there's not enough thickness of these Klister mixes, they just plain and simple won't work. But there's other times where adding more waxes, more of this, basically you'll get to a certain point of, okay, this is the maximum amount of kick. If I add more of this same exact wax, it's probably not going to give you more kick. All it's going to do is slow you down. And that's a big hurdle or a big thing that you need to realize when you're doing that, is that knowing when the point of, okay, I've got as much as I'm going to get on that ski without affecting my, my glide.
So I was told by one person to tell me if he's wrong or not, that if you wanted to put on another layer to move in a zone.
Yep, so if I were to now go on, so I have 3 layers on here. If I now wanted to do a 4th layer of this specific wax, 100% you're going to go in a zone. So with this, if I wanted to do a 4th layer, instead of going tape to tape, I'm going to go this 0.6 zone here, and then I'll go the 0.4 zones there. And I'll make a mark on the ski there that I can now see when I'm waxing. And I will do this. And so now when we're working with this wax, now that I did this, I cork it back out again, what the idea of that is I'm trying to make a bell-shaped curve over the ski. Knowing that we know what the thickness of these zones are, so from here to here, that's 0.2, this is 0.4, this is 0.6. So if I have the ski sitting flat on there, the tallest part of the ski is right underneath the foot. Out here, it's almost touching, and right here, it's always dragging because that's touching the snow. So that's what we're trying to do, is trying to build basically a bell shape underneath this to give you more thickness to get kick without having that drag. So, and then again, with this, I will, and on these stickier waxes on Klisters, it is definitely important to make sure that you're taking care of this bump or this ridge that you'll get on the end of the zone. So just pushing that back a little bit. That ski is now set. So those are the stickier waxes that we deal with and ways to apply it. So now we're going to go on to Klister, the fun stuff. So with Klister, preparation is not really any different in terms of getting the bases sanded and getting the bases marked. Generally with Klister, again on my skis, depending on the type of Klister that I'm working with, I'm going to be working in different zones. So for this specific ski here, I'm going to be showing you a thinner Klister application. I got 2 different ways to apply Klister in a thin way. And knowing, this is why this sport is so confusing, is knowing which types of Klisters are good to be applied thinner and which types of Klisters are not good to be applied thinner. And that's, I mean, people think Klister is Klister, and most of the time Klister is Klister, but you need to know what the goal of those Klisters are and how they're being used. So with this, on a thinner Klister job, I'm going to be doing the 0.4 to 0.4, both front and back. Getting the zone sanded. Again, I did it previous weekends. I don't need to do it to these skis again right now. being aware that sanding that zone, you can't really permanently screw up the base unless you really sand it, over sand it. Like it's sanding it, I can take that out with a stone grinder very, very quickly. You're not taking that much material off the base, you're just roughening the base up. You're not actually physically removing that much base material. So don't worry about sanding too much and then you don't have a kick zone to work with anymore. But so with this, I'm going to show using, again, binder. For thinner klister jobs, I love liquid binder. This is something that can also be used with hard waxes. So when we're working with like these N41, I will put this on more often than I will put on like these sticky hybrid mixes. So liquid klister, the reason why I like this more so than these is it can go on super, super thin, and that's the big important piece here. Is a thin application of these waxes really helps to speed up the ski because it's going to be a shorter wax in here, a little bit thinner, and it will be able to glide better because of that. So with this, we've got this sponge applicator. This one has already been primed a little bit, so it's been used once or twice. But even so, I haven't used it since previous week. I didn't use it this weekend. I am basically just trying to get that liquid to come out. Once it comes out and it's primed, it comes out fairly easily, but that first ski usually takes a little bit longer. There we go. First ski usually takes a little bit longer. All right, now there's a very nice thin layer, super thin layer klister. And that's the nice thing about this is that this is thinner than either of the two wax jobs I just did because it's in a liquid form. All this needs to do is now dry or evaporate. It takes a couple minutes for that to happen. I'm going to set the ski off to the side and do a couple more because I have a few different applications I'm going to show you. So I'm going to do, maybe I'll make 3 of them really quickly. Same thing, that 0.4, 2.4. And again, now that I have this applicator wet, this next one, a lot faster. So 2, let's do a third one.
Is this klister or a base?
Huh?
Is this klister or a base?
This is a binder. So it still is a klister, but it is a binder. So this is not going to give you really any kick at all. You don't necessarily need it, but it does help out with durability. So again, if it's really icy, what I would do with this, and I'm going to kind of skip this step because it's just going to add to this demonstration, but what I would do is let it dry out, then hit it with an iron. That's just going to help increase that durability. It's not necessary, but it does help. All right, so I've got 3 different skis set up with this liquid. I'm gonna let it dry. Prior to going back to this, I'm just gonna get the 4th ski set with a traditional klister binder. So now reasons why you would use a traditional klister binder. So I got this here, comes in a tube. Over a liquid binder is if you know that you have a ski that's a little bit taller, ski that requires more wax, or if you are using a wax that needs thickness to work. So because of that, knowing that I'm using this one here, I'm going to be pushing these zones in even further. So I'm going to be going, again, on my personal skis, the ones that I'm using and testing all the time, I will go 0.6 on the back and 0.4 on the front. So, and sanding the same exact way. And so with a binder, I know that, and people are aware what Klister is, how it feels, everything like that. It's really sticky. Similar to melt-on paraffins, there is different hardnesses of Klisters. There's hard Klister and then there's soft Klisters. Binders are generally going to be harder Klisters. So when I'm using this, even though this is at room temperature, it is difficult for me to get out of this container without a little bit of coercion. So I can get this out. I guess I'll try to show you. So just a portion of the ski here, putting the cap on. So I just got a little bit on there. You can see a very small amount came out here. This is without heat. Now, you can take a heat gun or what I have access here, blowtorch. Just a little bit of heat to that Klister. Again, we'll make it real easy to come out. And now, one tip, as soon as you are done applying the Klister to the ski, put that cap back on the Klister. Don't let this cap stay off the Klister, otherwise you're just having a mess everywhere. But what I did is I played some thin stripes. I tried to do it across the ski rather than like a vertical strip down. The reason why is it gives more coverage to do the entire side of the ski. And with this binder, these are very, very thin, thin strips. I will then be able to take my iron and iron this in, following up with that cork again to really push the Klister to the spots that I need. And then taking care to clean out the groove. Now this is set. So I now have a fairly thin layer of a traditional Klister binder on there. But what you guys will notice the difference. So these two are technically the same product. This one here, that is going to be the liquid. The only difference between this product and this one, this has a solvent in it that helps to keep the wax suspended, whereas this one is just going to be the full Klister application. Very difficult to get the traditional Klister to be, it's almost impossible to get as thin as this. But again, there's reasons behind that, and I'll explain that later. But so I have all my skis now set and prepped with a binder on there. Now I'm going to go off and show you the different Klisters that we're going to be using and applying. So clean up my space a little bit. So, looking at Klister, if I'm looking at thinner Klister jobs, I'm looking at these harder Klisters. One of my favorite ones to use in the conditions that we have a lot here is Gold Klister from Rex. So this is going to be a Klister that's specifically designed for man-made snow. The nice thing is with this, it's a very safe Klister. It's usually pretty fast, it usually gives you some good kick. And in conditions where there may or may not be some snow falling, it's a fairly safe wax to use if there is some new snow coming down at that time. Knowing that if you still need a Klister to work, this is one I generally lean towards as a safer option. So again, with this, because this is going to be a harder Klister, generally how you know it's a harder Klister, if you look at the temperature ranges on the boxes, anything that has temperature ranges that go below freezing, generally going to be harder waxes. So if you think blue Klisters, those are going to be ice Klisters. Violets or gold, they'll go below freezing. The ones that have temperature ranges that go above freezing, generally going to be softer Klisters. Softer Klisters go on a little bit thicker, and I'll explain some other things down the line there. But so with this, we are going to apply some thin stripes, and because this is at room temperature, it does go on fairly easily. And so I'm just putting these dots that I'm pushing off to the side here. Again, to make it so it's pretty easy for me to smooth out and spread out. But that'll be that thin layer there. Now with this, I now need to start to spread this out. If I were to go ski on this, it would be really herky-jerky. You wouldn't get much kick and you wouldn't get much glide. So to spread it out, I'm going to use my finger. And in room temperature like this, it's pretty easy to use. But if you're doing this outside or in an unheated garage, that's where you're going to need that heat again. So blowtorch, heat gun, just heating that wax up just a little bit really helps to smooth this out. And so what I'm doing here is I'm doing a very thin application of this Klister. And the reason why I'm doing a thinner application is I want to show you afterwards how to do what's called a Klister cover. So again, another technique used to help get you more kick or get you more glide, depending on the conditions. But so smoothing this out, again, using that thumb. And once it's all smooth, what I'm doing, very similar to the hard wax, is I'm using the tape as my garbage space, so I can push the wax onto the tape. And so with that, I now have a very thin layer, and this is a super thin layer of Klister. So you can see a little bit of the base material still poking through there as a sign that I put on a fairly thin layer of Klister with that. So this is going to be great if I want to use a Klister cover. So Klister cover, what that means is I have Klister, and I'm going to cover it with a hard wax. And so what that does, and it's not always going to be best, but what that does is in conditions like we have right now where it's right around freezing, where you need the Klister in order to give you kick, but you want some extra glide, you can cover that with a hard wax, and that's going to help out with that gliding aspects while you're still getting the benefit of that Klister underneath. So with this, I'm going to throw this ski outside really quickly. And I'm going to demonstrate a second way to make Klister very thin. And this will be a fast one. So who was at my last clinic that we did back in December? There was a couple people here. Do you guys stay for afterwards for the competition? Some people might know about this. So I did a competition with Max there where he did what I just did, doing the application by hand. Well, there's now, Swix has these wax machines that were originally designed for glide wax. Well, you can put Klister in here. So I have a tray right now, pull it out. So these trays are removable, a little warm. I have one that'll pass around here. So this is what the tray looks like. You can pass this around. That has blue Klister in it. This one has gold Klister in it. So what this does, and you'll see there's a metal bar on the bottom and a rubber bar on top. And as you roll that, it will pick up the Klister, apply it to the rubber bar, and then that rubber bar is going to apply the Klister to the ski. So with this, I'm going to be able to, once I get it primed, and for this, because I'm on a roller and goes on super thin. Do 3 passes there with the roller. Then, well, I'll show you right now before I even smooth it out. That is about as thin as I did the other job. I did it in 1/4 of the time, and it is, yes, it is. It goes on very, very thin, and the most important part, it goes on very consistently. So it is the exact same thickness throughout the entire ski, and I still am shocked and amazed every time I see that. So this is exactly what you want Klister to see, to look like. If I could apply it like this by hand, I would love to, but I can't do that. So I'll bring that other ski back in to show. The contrast of me doing my best attempt to make a thin Klister job versus me just hopping on that machine and in 10 seconds doing 10 times better work. So with this, I'll now show you that Klister cover and what that looks like. So Klister cover, there are certain waxes out there that just work really well as a cover. N41, I've had a lot of success with that. This is one of my favorite ones if it is snowing. If you have man-made snow, wet, crappy man-made snow, and all of a sudden it just starts snowing, Klister itself is a liability, but if you can cover that up with some waxes, this is one that I like, Vouti GT Pink. What that allows you to do is it gets you still that benefit of the Klister. Really all that we're doing, just putting a layer of that wax over the ski, taking a cork, corking this in, and really you want to make sure that that Klister is fully cooled, and I'll throw that ski outside to have that Klister colder, because you don't want this to mix in with the Klister. You want it to create a thin shell over the Klister, so that way when it comes off, it's going to look, it's mixing a little bit because I didn't give it quite enough time to dry, to cool off. But really it's going to look a little bit dry compared to what a Klister will be. It'll be a visible sheen to it. You can see certain parts where the Klister is coming through here. But again, that's because I did this by hand. If I do the same thing on, I think it's this one. Yeah. Man, it's on so thin I can't even tell which one it is. If I were to do the same thing with this, even though this one didn't even sit outside, because it is much more consistent to begin with, boom, do that. This ski is going to be faster and kick better than that one. So this is something that those machines, it's definitely an investment for an individual, but it's definitely worth it, and especially if you're a part of a team. You can't do this stuff without one of those for a team or in a service setting. So going on to the other types of Klisters that we have here, I'm just going to do one last one here. I'm going to just go back to the traditional Klister. So if we're looking at next week, did anybody look at the extended forecast? What we got going on?
30s to 40s.
Oh, that's it? What about, yeah.
The rest of this week, then 40s all next week.
Yeah, I got 50s in, at least on the one I looked at. That isn't fun. To get wax to work in those conditions, you're going to have to work with softer waxes. So one that I pulled out here is 2251 from Rex. This specifically on here says Klister for wet, coarse snow from 0 degrees Celsius up to plus 10 Celsius. The wetter the snow is, the better this wax works. If it's dry snow or drier snow, icy snow, this wax doesn't actually give you that much kick. The wetter the snow is, the better that this will be. But the issue with this is that it's a really, really soft wax. So if you were to put down your binder and go straight to this and go out ski for 5K, half of this wax is going to be down here, which is not ideal. You don't want Klister in your glide zone. It's going to slow your ski down. To make it a little bit faster, or to prevent from that wax from shifting or moving, you need to have a cushion layer or a thicker layer of wax underneath, so that this wax that you're applying doesn't have to be applied very thick. So you don't want this layer to be thick, but you need thickness for it to work. So it's kind of like, oh, well, how do I do that? Well, you go to mid layers, violets. Most companies have some violet kick waxes that work great on their own underneath freezing, but when you are above freezing, violet waxes work great as a cushion layer. The reason being is that they do provide some amount of kick, but they're a little bit harder because, like I said before, those temperature ranges, again on this package, says +1 to -10 Celsius. And -10 Celsius signifies it's going to be a slightly harder wax. Harder waxes are not going to shift nearly as much as those softer waxes will. So with this, I will apply, and this is a sticky mess. I think I used this last year and it melted a little bit. So I'm going to apply this violet. Oof. And so this violet is still slightly softer yet than that gold that I was working with earlier, but that's just more from not necessarily looking at the temperature ranges. The temperature ranges might signify otherwise. It's just more from personal experience and also just feeling the wax right now. This is easier to come out of the tube than the gold is. But I will put this on. One tip I have for dealing with this, is you don't want this to go back in your wax box. It will be going back in my wax box because I don't have the right thing with me, but when I get a sticky container of wax like this, sandwich bags. Put it in here, and then this is probably not going to leak. So I got little snack size Ziploc bags filling that box, but right now I'm just going to put it back in here and pretend that it doesn't exist. So with this, very similar process that we were doing before. Because it's a softer wax, I don't necessarily need that heat. And because I don't need the heat, I can go on to that next layer a little bit sooner because I don't have to let the ski cool off. I'm just going to work this in on top, smoothing that layer out. All right, so now I got a nice, smooth, consistent layer of this wax. You guys can see there's definitely a bit of sheen to that. There's some thickness to this wax already. This is what's going to allow that 2251 to work. I'm going to take the 2251, open it up, and then again, using this. But the 2251, I'm going to keep in those smaller zones. So I'm going to keep it roughly 1.5 inches to 2 inches away from the back of the ski and that front of the ski. So on this ski, I was doing 0.4 in the front and 0.6 in the back. I'm really going to be keeping this wax at probably 0.8 in the back and 0.6 in the front. So when I put it on, you'll see how I didn't go all the way out to the ends of the tape there. Again, that's to help prevent it from traveling further down the base. It's going to want to drag a little bit on its own, and if I can have it drag into the violet Klister, that's just going to be better for that wax. So again, just rubbing this in, and with this, I'm not trying to get this wax to mix in with that violet. I'm just trying to get it to smooth out on top of the violet, and because it is a slightly softer consistency, it's somewhat manageable to do it, and it kind of takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of technique. The best way I can describe this feeling right now is I'm trying to spread out some peanut butter on top of jelly. Or not peanut butter on top of jelly, jelly on top of the peanut butter. peanut butter on top of the jelly, this wouldn't work. But that peanut butter underneath is a little bit soft. If I were to push too hard, the jelly would mix into the peanut butter. So the 2251 would mix into the violet. But since I'm using a light pressure on this, it's not really mixing too much, just staying towards the top there. And then doing that. And that's not pretty, but that's what it looks like. So that is what I would be doing for, let's say, next week when it's 50 degrees and there's a classic race going on at one of these, let's say, a conference race for the high schoolers. This will probably give them good kick and pretty decent glide. Now, there's one easier way to do this, and I've already demonstrated it. It's that machine there. So, like I said, I have that tray of blue Klister. I probably have accumulated now 10 to 15 different trays of wax that when I have that machine, I can go roll a bunch of violet and then go roll a bunch of the 2251 on top by just swapping those trays. Or I can get multiple machines, having them right next to each other. And after this, I got a video I can show you guys of me doing application of 3 different Klisters on a pair of skis in about 15 seconds. It's kind of a cool thing that you can do, and that's what is done at the highest level of waxing. That's what the US ski team will use. They will apply Klister solely by using that. They don't really ever do it by hand anymore because of the consistency, the how you can replicate it and all that stuff. So I think that is ending the video here. So I'm going to stop the video and then I can take some questions afterwards. So, all right.